I'm back again already. Sorry. Um, yeah, kind of want to keep this going now that I have a little bit of momentum. Um, I thought it would be nice to get back into the YouTube swing of things with talking about not necessarily entirely stuff I already have in my collection. I don't have the biggest collection. I mean, you're looking at the CDs I own. I probably have, you know, 300 vinyl sitting there, but not massive, So I've the whole point I started a YouTube channel is to share, share music that I am discovering, that I know about, that I've just found out about, whatever it is, share it with you guys. And, if you find something that you like, that you didn't know about before, or if you already have something or have already heard something that you didn't like at first, maybe you're going to give it a second chance, or pull something out of your collection that you haven't heard in years. That's the whole point of this, is just talking about music that we love, and turning other people onto it in whatever way. So, you know, if I can, you know, tell somebody about something they end up liking, mission accomplished. Um, so yeah, uh, here's what I've been listening to this past week. 10 highlights, as usual. I mean, I've listened to a ton of stuff, but here's 10 of the best things I've heard this week, in my opinion. That's what this all is. It's all opinion based, of course. Music is subjective. We all hear things differently, of course. If you hate some of these albums, I get it. If you love some of them more than I do, totally get it. Makes sense. Yeah, I'll start off with things I own. I only have three in this video, so disclaimer right there. If you're looking for, you know, vinyl or CD nerdism, uh, this may not be the place, but I'll do some of those videos in the future. I'll do some more specific topic kind of videos, but for now, yeah, it is what it is. So, starting off, I had a 1985 kind of binge. um, Man, great year for heavy metal. I'm not gonna start going into Um, I mean, great year for music in general, not just heavy metal. I'm not going to start going into that right now, but I pulled out a few things. First one being Manilla Road. Oh man, my light placement is not great right now. Manilla Road, Open the Gates. Man, um, love this album. It's not my favorite Manila Road, but man, look at that cover. I mean, how can you argue with that? Amazing fantasy artwork. I don't actually know. Here we go. Eric Larnoy did the art for this. Um, Man, amazing art. Um, an amazing band, man. That whole run they had from uh frickin' Crystal Logic up through um the Courts of Chaos. I know that one has a drum machine on it, but man, that's still a great album in my opinion. Um, they had that one weird album in the 90s, but man, besides that, that whole run throughout the 80s and 90s and all the way through the 2000s even, especially up to Voyager, man. Manila Road was one of those bands where I heard about them a lot of times, and it took me a while to check them out. And as soon as I heard um, Crystal Logic, Necropolis, man, I was in instantly. This is just a High Roller Records reissue, black vinyl. Nothing too crazy. It didn't come with a poster. Um, I got Crystal Logic, Open the Gates, and The Deluge, which you can see up there, all at the same time. The the other two came with posters. This one didn't, which I would have loved a poster of this art, like I was saying, but still happy to have it. I mean, this is just such a cool album. I mean, you got Metal Strom. ah, I could start naming tracks off of here, but everything is great. The 7 inch that it originally came with as well, with the Ninth Wave and um, Witch's Brew. I mean, just such an interesting psychedelic kind of style that Mark Shelton had with his soloing and stuff like that, and just a great riff writer, really interesting, unique vocalist. Doesn't sound like anyone else really. Um, some people, that's a turnoff. I totally get that if you don't love his voice, but for me, when I first heard it, it instantly just connected, and I was like, man, I need to hear more of this. So yeah, quickly became one of my favorite bands. Um, had to show that it's always a highlight when I hear a Manila Road album. So sticking in 1985, not an original press, of course, but Pentagram, their first album, was originally called Pentagram. Had like a blue kind of logo diagonally across here from what I've seen. This is a reissue, Relentless. It's called. This is on Peaceville. Um, forget when this is from. I want to say maybe 2010. Looks like on here. Sounds about right. But this is the first Pentagram album, studio album. They had a lot of demos back in the day. Uh, the the First Days Here comp, which I've got as well, is fantastic if you love like 70s, early 70s hard rock. You know, it's not quite there with Sabbath sonically. The guitar tone isn't quite there, but the songs are for the most part. Just fantastic stuff. But man, this, they take that kind of 70s like proto metal, proto doom aesthetic and they put it in a studio with a massively heavy guitar sound. Um, I I love this. The first time I heard this, I was pretty blown away. It's I mean, they inspired so many doom and stoner metal bands. Absolutely. This is just on black vinyl as well. Like I said, Peaceville. Cool that they put this out. Um, I don't love every Pentagram album. Uh, the first few are great. I honestly should go back to, you know, Be Forewarned and Review Your Choices. I think it's called the third one. And Day of Reckoning. That one's great too. This is probably my most played one, but they're all those early ones are great. I don't think they have a bad album either. I haven't heard the latest one, but I've heard everything else, and they're all pretty solid, you know. Bobby is a notoriously not solid character, but you know, he always does great on the vocals, and man, you can't go wrong with. I think it's lineup on here, man. I don't even know. It is Victor Griffin on guitar. Man, you can't go wrong with that. Just a total riff master. Um, all right. Sticking in 1985 again. I mean, if you don't know this album, just switch off my video, go listen to this. This is the total foundations of extreme metal. Celtic Frost to Megatherion. There's first or second album, depending on how you look at it. Um, I kind of think of it as their second because when I heard Morbid Tales, it had the bonus tracks on it. Um, so I kind of think of that as a full length. I, I mean, a lot of guys, a lot of people from back in the day, that was an EP because it didn't have the bonus tracks on a lot of early pressings. However you think about this, I mean, 1985, no one was doing this. You had Possessed, right? Um, Sacrifice, I think, or was that 86? 85, I mean, you had the first Sepultura EP, which was a split to begin with, stuff like that. You had, I want to say maybe Strappado by Slaughter. I feel like that was 86 as well. But man, this was so extreme for the time. I mean, Hellhammer, of course, coming before it. Um, just so heavy for the time. And I mean, this is proto death metal in a lot of ways. Um, this pressing is it is noise. This is a reissue, of course. I mean, crazy H.R. Giger artwork on this. I mean, I love that artwork. This came in that ended up getting this massive Celtic Frost box set a few years ago. It's got the first what, three albums, I guess. Um, if you call Morbid Tales an album. Plus a bunch of the EPs, singles. It's got a nice booklet in there and stuff. My only complaint is it doesn't have Cold Lake. Um, I actually like that album. It would have been cool because that's near impossible to actually get these days. I, you know, it's not a terrible album. Is it as good as To Therion or Morbid Tales or Into the Pandemonium? No, not at all. But I I still think it's decent for what it is. But man, this is just this influenced so much black metal and death metal and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the riffing to it's one of those albums that's just so unique. I mean, the first time I heard this, I wasn't sure if I liked it, but there was something about it. And I found myself maybe a month or two down the road thinking, man, I want to listen to that again just because I haven't ever heard anything that sounds like it. The guitar tone, the riffing, the vocals, it's all so unique. Um, just amazing, groundbreaking, timeless album in my opinion. And that's the end of the physical stuff that I have. So if that's what you're into, you can, feel free to shut the video off right now. If you somehow are a sucker for punishment and want to keep listening to me talk, then, by all means. Next up, I'm going with No Means No with Wrong. Oh, man. First time hearing a full album from this band. I had heard a couple songs here and there. Very cool that they're from my neck of the woods, kind of BC, British Columbia, Canada. I believe they started out in Victoria uh, area, and man, this is just some very cool punk, I guess you would call it, but it's so much more than just punk. Um, there's a lot of stuff going on here. They kind of just like throw everything into a blender and just hit the fucking mince button or whatever, and whatever comes out, comes out. You pour it into a glass, pour it down your throat, and you're just like, you know, um, there's elements of noise rock on here, there's elements of metal. There's some kind of avant-garde stuff. There's some prog. I mean, you can tell they were listening to Rush at this point. I haven't heard their super early stuff. Like I said, this is the first full length I've heard from them. Um, but man, the musicianship on this is crazy, especially the drumming. Um, I should have looked this up for the drummer's name, but man, I think punk gets kind of a bad rap in some circles for not having great musicianship. But man, if you listen to some of this stuff, especially the stuff that was coming out by the mid to late 80s, and that that's just simply a load of shit, to be honest. I mean, I'm not a huge punk guy yet. I think it's a style I'll get more and more into as time goes on. But I love, like, I love a lot of those bands that I have been checking out. Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, Fear. I mean, you listen to, especially the drumming, man. Especially the drumming is just so consistent and manic. And, this guy especially. Try to find his name here. I should have looked this up, like I said, but John Wright on the drums. Man, killer, killer drummer. Amazing. But just all across the board. I love the diversity on this album too. There's everything from straight up punk songs to just really like off the wall, kind of interesting, weird stuff. If that sounds up your alley, definitely check this out. Um, all right, moving on, going a little forward in time. Immortal with Blizzard Beasts. Man, uh, I was in a kind of 60s, 70s psychedelic rock mood, I thought. And then I went to work the one day and it starts blizzarding outside. There's just massive snowflakes falling down. I'm like, I gotta listen to Immortal, you know? I listened to oh my God, the album before this. Drawn a total blank on the name. Ah, anyway, and Blizzard Beasts. Blizzard Beasts is one of their more underrated albums, to be honest. It's it's some people complain about the production. I don't really get that. I think it sounds perfectly raw, exactly where it needs to sit within the spectrum of metal production. I guess it's maybe not your typical black metal album of the time, partially because, man, I hear a huge death metal influence on this album. Not vocally, but in the riffing, especially. Some of the drumming as well, especially Morbid Angel. I hear a lot of Morbid Angel on here. Um, Especially the kind of like Covenant and Domination era, kind of. Um, Man, this thing just rips from front to back. It's got really ferocious songs, and then it's got like some of the more epic leaning stuff that they would go on to do on albums like, um, I just can't remember any Immortal album names today. Wow. At the Heart of Winter. God, Jesus Christ. Um, yeah, I love that album as well. Um, but this is kind of an interesting, I guess you could call it a transitional album between the early, really blasting, kind of ferocious stuff and the more like epic, melodic, massive sounding later stuff. It's kind of right in the middle of their catalog. And man, as much as I love stuff like, I mean, I love all their first five or six or seven albums, all the way uh, through Northern Sons of Northern Darkness. Just fantastic stuff. Um, but man, this one is the kind of the underrated one, and I don't really get it. It's amazing. Definitely, if you haven't connected with this yet, uh, I would say go back to it with fresh ears and just, you know, give it a second chance. Um, all right. So, like I said, I was in a 60s, 70s psych mood at one point. Um, I kind of came back around to it after listening to some black metal. um, Blue Cheer, new and improved, is one of the ones I'm gonna shout out. Another underrated album in a catalog that kind of, I don't know. I don't think the Blue Cheer catalog is really necessarily loved overall. The first two albums get all the praise. Those are fantastic albums. And to be completely honest, I haven't heard anything past this one, but this album is absolutely worth hearing. Um, Little disclaimer, if you're used to the first two albums, this is not as heavy. The first half of the album, side A, is much more kind of lightweight, sort of, what do I call it? It's psychedelic. It's kind of in the vein of some of the more, you know, oh, it's hard to describe. Some of the San Francisco kind of scene stuff, the more typical kind of side of it, where it's, it's very, I don't want to say fluffy, but it's not really like, doesn't really have much of an impact necessarily. The second side, however, is famous for having Randy Holden on guitar. I also could have shouted out his solo album, his first solo album, Population 2, here as well. Man, total proto doom, proto stoner metal stuff. Um, but I wanted to shout out this album because I actually like side A as well. It's not it's not amazing. It's kind of lightweight compared to their first two albums, but I think it's enjoyable for what it is. I've never minded it. And then I think having that as side A and then flipping it over one day when I actually own this album, um, to hear songs like Fruit and Icebergs and Peace of Mind, man, those are just those are such great heavy psych songs in my opinion. Um and just absolutely worth listening to the album for. I mean, they take up most of side B. They're, I want to say, both around 7 minutes long, and man, just absolute. Uh, I don't want to say crushers. They're not super heavy, but for the time, 1969, it was some heavy shit, man. And there's still great songs. They hold up to this day, in my opinion. So, anyway, enough fucking rambling from me. Just go listen to it. Um, Sticking on kind of a psychedelic uh, zone, Caravan in the Land of Gray and Pink. I listened to the first three Caravan albums this past week. Man, great stuff. Perfect kind of like um, middle ground between psychedelic rock and prog. They're definitely in that Canterbury kind of zone, uh, which is a really interesting sound. I don't know. I've always been intrigued by it. There's a lot of kind of jazz rock in there, but there's a lot of kind of traditional psychedelic rock, psychedelic pop almost in spots, from the 60s carrying over into the next decade there. Um, Man, Caravan is one of the best bands from that scene in my opinion. Um, I mean, it's they've got a certain charm to them. You start off with a song like Golf Girl. It's just it's weirdly upbeat and like positive, but at the same time there's all this strange kind of psychedelic trippy imagery going on with the lyrics and stuff. And man, a song like Winter Wine as well is just like it goes through so many different moods. And then you get to 9 Feet Underground. Man, it's like 5 or 6 songs in one, over the course of whatever it is, 22 minutes, I want to say. Um, and I get how you could critique it by saying, "Oh, it's like 6 songs smashed together." It kind of is, but they all work. They all work together. I don't know. That's one of those situations where I would say this is an album listen for me. Even if whether or not it's broken up into 5 or 6 songs on the second side of the album, I don't really care because I'm gonna just listen to the album anyway, right? So, yeah, is it one of the greatest prog epics of all time? Probably not. But is it enjoyable as hell? Yeah. And man, Richard Sinclair's or no, David, oh man, I'm blanking on names hardcore tonight. But the electric piano sound on this, is it David Sinclair? I think there were two brothers in this band. Um, I want to say David Sinclair's like keyboard sound on this, that distorted electric piano kind of sound, like a Fender. I don't know what it is, to be honest. I've always kind of wanted to know, never found out. I want to say it is Dave Sinclair. Um, Man, just his sound is so cool. It's almost like a guitar, but not quite. It's still like a distorted keyboard sound. It's just so goddamn good. Um, Apologies in advance. This video is going on even longer than the last one. I was gonna try to make it shorter, but fucking way she goes. Okay, next up, more black metal. uh, Kampfar with Fra Underverdenen. Probably mispronouncing that. Norwegian band. They were kind of late on the scene, actually. This was a weird one because I listened to this album in a dream, or I decided to check it out in a dream. All I heard was an acoustic intro, and I woke up the next morning and I was like, man, I need to check this album out. Um, and I put it on, and it's got an acoustic intro, which was kind of weird, kind of trippy. It's not note for note. I didn't imagine something that I had never heard before, but just kind of interesting. That's never happened to me before. But man, this album rips. Um, it's a lot slower paced than a lot of black metal. Um, like I said, these guys were kind of late on the scene. This is their second album, 1999. Their first album came out in 97, I think. And so they kind of had to do something different at that point. If they had just stuck with the typical sound of Norwegian black metal, they probably would have got lost in the shuffle. And, you know, to be honest, I feel like they kind of did. I mean, I don't hear many people talk about this band. I heard about them quite a bit early on in my extreme metal journey because one of my good friends was a fan of this band early on. I never checked them out that much, you know. I've heard their first EP and first album and a couple of the later albums, but I need to catch up on this stuff because this is great. It's like I said, more mid-paced, um, but it gives the riffs a lot of room to breathe. And man, the riffs on this album are so good. nuanced. You know, they're they're very melodic. There's a lot of kind of folk elements, even if in the riffing itself, there's quite a few sections on this album where the distortion never goes away. It's still distorted metal riffs, but they sound like you're in a, you know, you're in a longhouse or something like, or a long ship, just drinking a bunch of mead with a bunch of Vikings, man, and you're just dancing around, which is an interesting vibe because a lot of black metal doesn't go for that. So you could almost put this in a folk metal vein to some extent. Um, it's kind of a unique listen because there is a lot of black metal there. And I know there's a lot of bands that do blend these two styles. It's just not a thing I'm super familiar with. So to me, it sounds unique. Maybe to other people, it doesn't, but still a great, great album. Worth checking out for anyone who's into black metal or folk metal. And speaking of folk stuff and Viking metal, man, the the OG Bathory, Quorthon himself, Nordland I and II. I mean, what do you say about these albums? Um, it's kind of they're a return to form, I guess, after the weird phase of the '90s. I know he put out Blood on Ice in that uh, in that run, but overall, it was a very weird time for Bathory. Um, even Destroyer of Worlds, the album before this duology, um, is very inconsistent to me. It's got some great songs, and then it's got some really kind of weird, not weird, but just kind of mediocre ones that don't really fit the the Bathory aesthetic for me. I even like what is it? Requiem? Is that the album? Yeah, Requiem. Um, the earlier thrash album that he did in the '90s. I Octagon is something else, but Requiem, it's a pretty good thrash album. It's raw, it's brutal. Um, like I said, Blood on Ice is great. But man, these are totally a return to form as far as Viking metal, folk metal goes, and just straight up heavy metal. I mean, man, these are just so epic. Some of the most epic, huge metal songs of all time. Um, they're a little slow, maybe for some people. I get that critique. There isn't much up tempo stuff here, but it's just so huge. The melodies are infectious. His vocals at this point are about as good as they have been as far as clean vocals go. He doesn't really do any harsh vocals on these, uh, but man, the I don't know if you love Viking metal or folk metal or just Bathory in general, and you somehow haven't checked these out. These are right up there with Hammerheart and maybe even above Twilight of the Gods for me. Blood on Ice is one I still have to listen to more. It's growing on me gradually. These these are just I loved them the first time I heard them. And yeah, just just great stuff. Okay, and finally, Death, Spiritual Healing. What do I say about this? It might be my least favorite Death album. Maybe? I don't know. I went into this. It's my least listened to Death album, and I went into it thinking it was my least favorite. Man, it fucking rips. I mean, uh, what do you got on here, man? For songs, again, I should be more prepared. Apologies, but it's kind of the transition between the early, really kind of formative, thrashy period of Scream, Bloody Gore, and Leprosy, but getting a little bit into the more technical zone. I mean, Human, in terms of technicality, Human is another step like way beyond this. Just purely because of the musicians he had on that. I mean, Steve DiGiorgio, Paul Masvidal, and Sean Reinert. I mean, there's no way that's not gonna be an album full of technical wizardry. But man, every song on this album rips, man. Living Monstrosity, Altering the Future, Defensive Personalities, Within the Minds, the title track, man. Oh, Low Life, Genetic Reconstruction, and Killing Spree. 43 minutes of just killer death metal. I mean, it's not as fast paced as some of the stuff that was coming out at this time. I mean, you already had, Altars of Madness, you had Symphonies of Sickness. Um, at this point, Bolt Thrower had done Realm of Chaos. I mean, there was some more extreme stuff than this at the time, but man, this is just so well written. Um, Again, one of those albums where every time I go back to it, it gets better. And I don't know how I don't have this in my collection yet. I don't have every Death album yet. I will definitely someday. They're one of my favorite bands. Impossible to rank their albums for me. I love everything from the raw brutality of Scream Bloody Gore up to the prog insanity of Sound of Perseverance. But I don't know. I don't know if this is my least favorite Death album. I don't think I have one, to be honest. So yeah, amazing stuff. James Murphy on leads too. I mean, come on. All right, enough rambling from me. Uh, yeah, I guess I'll have another one of these up in a week. Um, Thanks to anybody who's actually watching these. I know I'm kind of a, I don't know, a unknown quantity still because I haven't been uploading stuff. Um, like I said, I'm gonna try to start doing more themed videos. I'll try to get on some 70s hard rock stuff and some 90s death metal things as well. Um, as well as a few other things here and there as well. Like I said, I'm just trying to, talk about things that other people might not know about. So, if you love these albums, or if you hate these albums, or if you've never heard them before, or if you want to recommend something for me to listen to, hit me up in the comments down below. Um, and yeah, till next time, take it easy, and thanks for watching.